I said that really weird, but
Who knows what's real anymore because AI's gotten so advanced.
medical costs are just so extreme.
There's no longer any care about the patient. It's just about money.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another podcast of the Doom Scroll Club. I said that really weird, but Calvin, what are we talking about today? Sorry, we've had some technical difficulties, so we're getting a little...
This is like our fifth time trying to record this, so yeah, I feel like if this doesn't happen, I'm just going to show up at your apartment. And
the internet doesn't want to work. For some reason, it keeps kicking us off, so... Fingers crossed this is the time.
So in today's episode, it's absolutely unhinged and not in a fun pop and edible kind of way. First up, we're talking about the Big Beautiful Bill. It passed, and if you're not a billionaire or a gas station corporation, you might want to hold on to your wallet and your will to live. We'll break down who's getting screwed, and spoiler, it's probably you. I've now said this like 5 times.
You sound like one of those Disneyland ride instructors,
¿Me entiendes? Sentados, por favor.
Yes, exactly.
Then we're diving into the reptilian fever dream that is Alligator Alcatraz, and yes, that's real. It's completely not normal, and the deranged comments that Representative Laura Loomer, who somehow managed to make gators about the border, horrifying. Also, we have Elon Musk, who is creating his own political party. So, help us all. And finally, we are going to be talking about the Texas floods that just happened and how they were completely avoidable if the Weather Service wasn't just gutted by Doge. So let's jump into it. Cody, you want to start us off with the Big Beautiful Bill and what that has coming for us in the next couple years?
Yeah, you want to just dive straight into the beautiful bill, or do you want to talk about anything new in your life, how your week's been, that sort of thing?
Yeah. My week's been busy and depressing. Obviously we've had all this stuff happening, which we're going to cover, but it's really hard when getting news after news of all this stuff, and you're basically it feels like we're watching our democracy just fall and break apart, losing rights and losing checks and balances in our judicial system, and all this stuff has been definitely difficult to handle. But my wife and I were trying to hold on to the positives. We weren't planning on doing anything for 4th of July, but we had a neighborhood 4th of July party that was happening on our block, and we decided to just go and meet our neighbors that we've never met before, and it was actually a really nice experience. We found out that at least everyone we talked to kind of has the same political feelings that we do, so it definitely gave us more of a strong sense of community, knowing that everyone's kind of feeling the same way we're feeling, and we're not just alone. I think I mentioned before that we spent a couple years in Florida, and it was definitely hard living in an area or an apartment complex where we were at, but where it was very MAGA supportive and very anti-liberal. I mean, I don't know if I've even told you the story of when we went to go get our licenses in Florida, and you have to put down what your political party is so they can sign you up for stuff. And I actually had the employee at the DMV, because I marked that I was a Democrat, and they're like, "Why would you do that? Why would you be a Democrat at the DMV?" So it was definitely nice feeling okay, at least on our street, we feel like we're in a safe community, and we made some good friends. But other than that, it's just been focusing on things that we can handle or change. So it's been a lot of okay, let's do some deep cleaning. Let's, go through, what can we get rid of? What do we want to keep? Just organizing, stuff like that. How about you, Cody? What have you been doing this week?
Yeah, not a whole lot. Didn't do much for the 4th of July. I think there's this kind of, you know, overwhelming feeling of just feeling like it's not a whole lot to celebrate. As far as feeling patriotic and stuff. There's just like this overwhelming feeling that there isn't as much to celebrate. And this is going to differ depending on what side of the political spectrum you land on. If you're more towards the right, you're like, what the fuck is your guys' problem? You're an American. Be proud. I love America. That sort of thing. If you're on the left, you're kind of like, what is happening? Yeah, there's a lot of feelings of chaos and anxiety and, so obviously we're all individuals. We all have individual experiences of what is happening right now. We're just going to be talking about ours. So if you're triggered, I don't know why you're listening to us.
I don't know why anyone would be listening to us anyway.
That's fair. So yeah, I just didn't really feel like there was a whole reason to really celebrate fireworks. Scared Toby a lot, so that was there's not a lot around us because they're illegal where I'm at. But of course they set them off, like even if it's like the fairgrounds or something like that, so you hear them. And Toby heard one. We were taking him out to go to the bathroom, and that was it. He like wanted to go inside so bad, went inside, hid under the bed, and like didn't want to. It was just like, oh my gosh, dude. So even yesterday, no fireworks. He was afraid to go outside at night because he still thought he was gonna hear fireworks. It was like, dude, you heard like one. You're fine. So that's yeah, that's
well, fine. I mean, even though that they're illegal, like over here, it sounded like thunderstorms. Like it was just huge explosions all over the place. So yeah, we went to that barbecue, and by the time people started doing fireworks, we like went straight back home with the dogs because they also don't enjoy it. So I don't think we've done fireworks for probably like at least 5 years.
Yeah,
because the dogs don't like it. But it's fine. I feel like you don't really miss anything,
Yeah, like it's fun to watch if you go to like the big fireworks.
Yeah.
The legal ones. But yeah, we moved. So this year, like, is a different experience because, where we were previously, it was just like people would set them off anywhere. And there was a lot that were like loud. Like, you're like, is my house, like, did they light that off right outside my door or my window? Like, what is happening this year? Couldn't hear much at all besides if you walked outside, so that was nice. But yeah, should we dive into this big beautiful bill that conservatives were celebrating getting passed on the 4th of July?
Yeah, why don't you talk about some of the bullet points that are coming in with this bill?
So let's cover the basics. It's a lot, and I'm not going to pretend that I am educated at all in economics. So I'm just going to give you my most best ignorant take on things, and you can take it or leave it. But this ain't my career, so just keep that in mind. But so the big beautiful bill, what it consists of, all right, so tax cuts, estimated $4.5 trillion with measures like raising the state and local tax deduction cap temporarily and solidifying previous tax cuts, spending cuts, significant reductions in Medicaid and SNAP, introducing work requirements that could lead to 11.8 million losing coverage over 10 years, border security, allocating $46.5 billion for border wall, $45 billion for immigrant detention, and $30 billion for ICE hiring and training. That's a lot of fucking money going to border security. So
it's more than what we give like the Marines.
Yeah, I think it's like it's
insane.
It's a lot of money. So other changes: ends clean energy tax credits, which Elon Musk was pissed about, which we'll get into after this. But Elon and Trump, like, they made up, but they're still fighting now. So permanently increases the child tax credit to $2,200, and adds deductions for tipped workers. And let's just be clear, upping it to 2,200 is only a $200 increase, which doesn't even make up for inflation. So
Mm-hmm.
deductions for tipped workers, that also has its limits, which we can go over later. But typical like pros and cons, whichever side is in support is, which is not the arguments on both sides. So for those who support the bill, they argue it'll boost economic growth through tax cuts, reduce government spending, and enhance national security with border investments. And critics highlight the risks, like millions losing healthcare and food assistance, a projected 3.3 to 3.4 trillion debt increase, and setbacks for environmental efforts. So I know that increasing the debt has been something that kind of both sides have been not so sure about, because I think that was what the whole Doge thing was supposed to be helping with, to help us reduce the debt. And now we just approved a bill that is going to once again increase the debt. And a lot of the money is going to border security. So if you're MAGA, you're probably happy about that aspect of things. But again, you're probably not so happy about the debt increase. And on the left, I mean, both, it should be bipartisan, honestly. Losing healthcare and food assistance is going to be huge. So yeah, what are your thoughts on it also so far?
My thoughts aren't good on it. I think the big thing is, with laws like this that get passed or bills, we're not going to see the effects immediately. So, we're looking at multiple years before we start seeing effects. And I believe I have a kind of outline. So phase one, which is going to be immediately fixing the immediate fixes and tax cut extensions. So that's permanent extension of most 2017 TCJA provisions, lower tax brackets, higher standard deduction, SALT deduction raised to 40,000 for incomes under 500,000. The child tax credit, which is held at 2,500 through 2028, will be dropping to 2,200 thereafter. So that's what's going to be happening kind of immediately. We're looking to through January or through 2026. That's when they're phasing out the clean energy credits. So that's clean electricity, hydrogen, nuclear, advanced manufacturing, and EV subsidies. We're looking at late 2025 to early 2026. So those are going to be taken down, which in the climate, we can't really afford to be going, cutting all this stuff that, is needed. Phase three, that's where we're getting into the health and Medicaid cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. My camera's gone again, so hopefully it reconnects. Okay.
Well, reconnected. So
All right. Okay, so we're looking at phase three. That's the health and Medicaid cuts. That's going to be from around 2026 to 2028. You're going to see harsh Medicaid caps, work requirements, and 1 trillion in cuts, staffing, benefit restrictions, and administrative delays. SNAP reform, states shoulder 5% of benefit cost, 75% of admin cost, and so that's going to be starting late 2020, 2025 into 2026. Then phase four, we're looking at business tax and estate planning. That's going to be late 2025 to 2027. You're going to see the expansion of Section 179 instant depreciation cap to 2.5 million. And then the estate tax exemption jumps to 15 million or 30 million per couple. Phase five, we're going to have an AI regulation freeze, which is going to be from 2025 to 2035 nationwide. So yeah, we're not going to see a lot of these immediately. The big ones that we're concerned about is obviously the health, SNAP, Medicaid, and then I would also say, all the clean energy cuts. So those are huge things that are going to be, we're going to see an impact, and that's going to be probably not going to start seeing that till late 2026. So, all those people who are for it, and don't think it's going to affect them, they're probably raving and happy now, but they're going to, fuck around and find out, in the next couple of years, unfortunately, and we're already seeing that with MAGA people who are regretting their votes. So,
yeah, yeah. I think the impact on social programs is where most people are, a little bit concerned about. So the Medicaid cuts with work requirements could, leave 11.8 million without coverage, and SNAP change risks kicking off 270,000 people from assistance. So It's increasing food insecurity. American Progress notes defunding Planned Parenthood could close 1 in 3 centers, affecting over 1 million people, with potential out of pocket costs for Medicaid enrollees up to $1,650 for a family of 4. So that's definitely concerning, and people just don't understand that Planned Parenthood does more than just abortions. Actually, is they do, annual checkups, all the things. So it's more of they think that defunding Planned Parenthood is just going to like stop abortion, but it's actually going to prevent people from getting the health care that they need. So that's a huge concern. And obviously, there's concerns about rural hospitals not getting the funding they need to shut down, and just over congesting the health system even more. So I know that's where like my main concern comes from, because our medical system is already fucked. So fun.
Yep. Yeah, yep, definitely a big beautiful bill. It's not looking good, and we already have a healthcare system that is strained. I have Kaiser insurance, and growing up, Kaiser was always kind of like one of the top insurances to have because everything's covered. And just recent years, they've had to make changes because they're so understaffed, or they have there's the medical care provider to citizen is not balanced, right? So when you have an appointment with a doctor, they're given like maybe 15 minutes to visit you, do whatever they need to do, talk to you, and give you an assessment. That's not enough time to really devote to someone and see what's going on. And I think that's also we're like we were talking about last week, with, care providers for like the trans community who are just kind of speed ramping people going through like the process. And that's probably part of it. It's, they don't have enough time to sit down with someone and really go through things. But, trans stuff aside, my wife was having issues for a year where they couldn't keep any food down. Every single night they were getting like 2 to 3 hours of sleep because they would just be throwing up all night. Went to the doctors multiple times. They said it was just stress. We went to the ER and we were told, oh, it's because you smoked pot, that's what's causing it. And then finally we went to urgent care and kind of had to push the doctor to do anything, and found out that their bile duct was blocked, and it was to the point to where their gallbladder was about to explode and had to be immediately removed. So you see situations like that where I see stories about that all the time. It's not just a random case. It's we're having a strong situation with our medical care system where it's a race to get people in, because then you can charge insurance and they make their money. But there's no longer, at least with big companies like Kaiser or whatever, there's no longer really a detailed care for the patient anymore. And that's not on the doctors or the medical or nurses and physicians. It's the actual system.
Yeah. Yeah. I've definitely had my struggles with the system. It's so hard to actually get the care that you need, and for doctors to have the time that they can take to actually, be thorough. I think that's a massive problem. And it has been for a while, even more so post COVID. But this definitely isn't going to help. And yeah, so fun times with that. But I don't know what it's kind of like. People who are against universal health care will use Canada as an example of like long wait times, or people not getting the care that they need within a reasonable timeline, etc., or the wait times for even pretty basic tests. But at the same time, it's like we're kind of experiencing the same thing, except for we pay a shit ton every month to insurance to be covered. So we're paying for care that we're not actually even really getting. So it's like, oh, you don't want universal health care because it's a shit show and you can't get the care you need. But it's just like, we're already there. Yeah.
Might as well have it free.
All right. It's like, at least we won't go bankrupt while we're waiting and we're sick. I don't know what the solution is, but eventually America's got to do something about the healthcare system. I mean, honestly, the whole like needing insurance, I feel like is a huge problem. Medical costs are just so extreme. If we could have it actually be affordable, we wouldn't need insurance in the first place, and they wouldn't be dictating the things that the doctors do. It's so fucking ass backwards. I'm like, how did we get here, and how do we get ourselves out of it? Obviously, we don't know because we haven't done it.
Well, the insurance system is so corrupt too. I mean, if as people who have been through multiple surgeries, if you actually like go and you look at your bill, and insurance is charging you like $50 for two Advil that they gave you. Like it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's yeah,
Yeah.
everything's just loaded so that they can make more money, and there's no longer any care about the patient. It's just about money.
It's like if you look at your, explanation of benefits, it'll show like what the doctors charged, what insurance paid, and then your GoPay and stuff. And it's crazy how much they charge for like the small, like even an IV or something. If you go to the hospital, it's like the bills are insane. It just doesn't make sense. And that's why we even need insurance. So yeah, it's awful. But if we want to look at, they say, we're getting tax breaks with this bill, but obviously the richest get the biggest benefit. So like the highest earners, so average annual income, let's say you make $500,000 a year. So you have the potential to benefit from an extra like 12,000 with the tax breaks. Let's say you make 105,000 a year, then you might get like an extra $1,000 with tax breaks. If you make anywhere between like 89,000 or so, $500. But if you like the poorest actually get fucked. So if your annual income is $39,000 per year, basically, or less, like the tax, you're making $1,600 less per year with these so-called like tax breaks. So I think that's a hard pill to swallow, just to be like, how is it that the least fortunate of the population is getting fucked over more than the richest? And that's always been asked backwards. And I know they like to be like, oh, it's trickle down economics. Unfortunately, how has that worked for us? It doesn't trickle. People just hoard it. They keep it to themselves. So it's like we have people out there that have so much money, they don't even know what to do with it. I feel like that shouldn't be a thing. Like if you have so much money you can't spend it in your lifetime if you tried, you're an asshole.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm all about like people. You're like, yes, it's your money. You can do what you want with it, but I just want to be like, why would you even keep? You can't even spend all of that. You're gonna die at some
Yeah.
point. You're not gonna live forever, so you might as well put it to good use and like give it to people in need. But no, they get the biggest tax breaks. So
Hmm.
fun times. Thanks for that, Donald Trump, helping out his rich buddies. So yeah, that's shitty. As far as the SNAP benefits goes, I think people are most concerned about veterans, homeless folks and foster children or foster, yeah. So they might be losing some benefits due to the SNAP situation.
Yep. So nothing that sounds really great. Nothing that I'm excited for. But before my camera disconnects again, should we jump into the Texas floods?
Yes, let's do it.
You want to start us
Should I?
off?
All right. So Texas had quite a flood. So
Quite a
uh,
flood.
yeah, at least 70 people have died
Yep.
so far, including many children. Numbers still rising as recovery efforts continue. Um, the floods hit central Texas July 5th were caused by a sudden storm dumping over a foot of rain, which made the Guadalupe River surge like very quickly, very dramatically. So the biggest thing that we're debating is whether funding cuts to federal agencies under President Trump contributed to the disaster. So some say it impacted forecasting, while others argue the response efforts were adequate. It happened so fast that there was nothing more that could have been done. So I think that's the biggest thing. Was it due to Trump cuts? Was it just one of those natural disasters that was like, so it happened so fast that it would have made a difference? I'm not a weather person or, like I couldn't give you a definitive answer on that, but it feels like it might have contributed a little bit at least.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you
Yeah.
said, we've got over 70 people dead now. It was I believe, a Christian camp where there's 24 girls missing
Yeah.
in that flood. As of this morning, I don't think they found any bodies yet. I could be wrong. Like you said, it points to like there was definitely cuts to the national weather system to programs that were funded and created to prevent things like this. Though prior grants funded upgraded gauges, radial gates, and wetland restoration, these measures weren't enough to control the extraordinary surge. Obviously, they got 10 to 20 inches of rain within hours. Could early warning systems that were scrapped, have helped? We don't know, but it's definitely, it's devastating all around. It's horrible for these families. I think we've seen kind of a increase in this situation where there's not enough weather service warning. People aren't getting, I've seen a couple, I mean, again, who knows what's real anymore because AI has gotten so advanced, but I've seen a couple videos of people with like tornadoes right in front of them, and you're not hearing any sirens. Like it's scary. So I don't know. I feel like I feel like it probably could have been prevented if there was adequate funding, if we didn't cut the National Weather Service down, if we didn't cut programs that were designed for early warning. But overall, it's just absolutely devastating. The warnings weren't reaching anyone. There was no local sirens. There wasn't even an evacuation plan. So, I think all that we can do, from this is learn and like push for, having these early warning systems, push for, making sure like, we can't control the counties. We can't control what our state does. We can vote, but we can't really do much other than that. But as individuals, we can, I don't know. I don't even know. It's just, it's so sad.
Yeah, for sure. So verdict's kind of still out there whether the budget cuts, had anything to do with how many casualties. But I still don't think it is a great time to be cutting, funding for weather research, because it just seems like storms and everything are just escalating. Like things are getting worse and natural disasters are getting worse. So yeah, it's like on the other hand, so the NWS and some experts defend their performance. So they basically are like, we did fine despite the cuts. But so it said they had adequate staffing. We had adequate technology. This was us doing our job to the best of our abilities. So however, there are reports of conflicting forecasts, so it depends who you talk to. So with the Texas Department of Emergency Management Chief, named Kidd, noting that initial NWS predictions of 3 to 8 inches of rain did not anticipate the actual rainfall, which was far higher, potentially contributing to the surprise factor. So yeah, the debate further complicated by policy proposals like Project 2025, which calls for dismantling the NOAA and shifting more responsibility to the states, a move that could exacerbate vulnerabilities in disaster-prone areas like Texas. So The Guardian and other outlets highlight that the eastward shift of severe weather patterns combined with reduced federal capacity may be making such events more dangerous, which I agree, but their party does not believe in climate change. So that's why they're like, we can cut it here, right? But I don't know that that's a wise thing to do. So fun.
You look at all these smaller, especially the red states, a lot of them basically get their funding from bigger blue states, like California. We're the fourth largest economy in the world, right? And we don't fund directly, but our tax dollars going to the federal government is what helps a lot of those small red states. So if you're going to change it to where these states are now responsible for themselves solely, California, we're going to be fine. Oregon, Washington, we're going to be fine. Texas probably could even be fine because they're such a much bigger state. But you're looking at these smaller red states that just, there's no way they're going to have enough funding to have programs like this, and they're really going to see the biggest suffering, unfortunately.
Yeah. So if we're looking at comparing California's economy versus Texas, so California's economy is larger than Texas, but Texas is experiencing faster economic growth and job creation. But California's GDP is significantly higher, making it the largest state economy and fourth largest globally, while Texas GDP ranks second among U.S. states. So yeah, they're up there, but still.
What are your thoughts on? I don't know if you've seen, but how Governor Newsom is talking about withholding state taxes from not paying the state taxes to the federal government, and even there's been talks about California seceding from the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's basically a fever dream,
Bluff.
But I think he's just trying to, play games with Trump, are the deal, throwing threats back and forth at each other. So Yeah, they're playing a little bit of a. They're in a boxing match right now, so they're probably going to be saying a whole lot of things that isn't going to happen or whatever. But yeah, we'll
I've
see.
now seen, I can't remember which states there are, but there's two other states that are now looking into, I don't know if they're suing the government, but basically they were talking about they are going to also withhold their funds until their already approved funds from the federal government is sent to them. So they're like, we're not paying taxes until you give us what you already promised us. So, that's also another, way that people can go by fighting. I think we just all stop paying taxes, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how well that would go over, but
I mean, if we all did it, if we all like, they can't arrest us all. If we all just stop paying taxes,
yeah, but half the population that voted for Trump, as much as they keep saying they want lower taxes,
that's true.
they'll keep paying it. So it'll just be. I mean, Trump would love to just put all the left wingers in jail. So
That's true.
that's why, kind of leads the way for the next topic is this new detention center that, he's put in detained immigrants into, as he calls it, Alligator Alcatraz. So definitely don't want to end up there.
No,
Did you want me to give a little brief overview of what's happening there?
sure. But a funny point to this is we actually lived down the street from where Alligator Alcatraz currently is.
Oh my
So
gosh.
definitely glad we're no longer there because that is, yeah, I no.
Yeah, no, no, thank you. So, for those who haven't heard, Alligator Alcatraz is a new immigration detention center located in Florida Everglades at the Dade Air Training and Transition Airport. It was announced June 2025, start operation around July 3rd, which is like a few days ago, with capacity to hold up to 5,000 detainees. The name comes from its location surrounded by alligator and python infested waters, making escape difficult, and is a nod to the infamous Alcatraz prison. So the controversy, this facility has sparked debate due to environmental concerns, with groups like Friends of the Everglades and Native American tribes opposing it for potential harm to the ecosystem and sacred lands. There are also humanitarian concerns, with Democratic lawmakers being denied entry and protests highlighting issues like the death of a detainee. So mostly it's like environmental and like humanitarian concerns, like, are we being humane? And it doesn't help that many of the, conservative the people commentators are seeing it as an opportunity to make jokes. Laura Loomer, for example, wouldn't expect anything less. She's posting like an alligator with a sombrero in its mouth, like making jokes about if anyone tries to get out, they'll just get eaten, and that the gators are going to be fed and stuff like that. She got this is almost impressive because has turned into a fucking dumpster fire of racism, homophobia, transphobia, everything, because it's like free speech
Hmm.
oriented, right? She actually got an X violation for something she said, which
Oh,
I have never seen. Never. Like, people have said some really fucked up shit, and I have not seen an X violation. But I do know that Elon Musk doesn't like Laura Loomer much, so I wouldn't be surprised if that had a little something to do with it. But yeah, she said something so racist that even X pointed it out.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
I believe she said something about how like there's gonna be 63 million alligators to feed or something like that, which was corresponding to the fact that there's like 63 million Hispanics or something like, or immigrants in the world, in the U.S. And it's the, I mean, we should call a spade a spade. Is like, this isn't a detention center. This is literally like a Holocaust, or whatever, camp, concentration
Concentration
camp.
camp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the living, they're in tight cages. They're they're not getting adequate food. I saw one news coverage of showing that the facility had been like flooded with a couple inches of water,
Yeah.
and like, so
Already.
already, yeah. And the fact that they're going to be putting, or I don't know if they've already started putting people in there. It's sick, it's disgusting. I honestly feel like if we ever get back to a normal system, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, but someone who's just fucking got common sense and a heart, I do think every single person who worked on this or pushed it should be in prison because it is absolutely disgusting. Yeah, I just it's so atrocious, and the jokes, the comments from the right is absolutely ridiculous. There was even on CNN, there was one of the newscasters was talking, and he was saying that he was talking about Disney adults, and he was like, if anyone over 21 goes to a Disney park and doesn't have a kid, they should be sent to Alligator Alcatraz. It's just like, I mean, people are just so vicious these days, and I don't understand, like, I don't understand what has, I mean, I just don't understand that amount of hate. I've said in the previous episode is, like, as much as I don't like Trump and I don't like these people and what they're doing, like, I feel like they should definitely have judicial recourse and they should be going to prison. I don't wish any of them death. I don't wish them to be tortured, to be starved, to be beaten. And the fact that's what they push for anyone who isn't the same as them, it's just disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think that is the most red flag thing. It's like they're denying entry to Democratic
Mm-hmm.
leaders to even like see inside. So that's a red flag. Like, what are they hiding? But I think also a scary thing is Trump talking, or like they're deporting people, but they're not even deporting them back to their countries. They're just deporting them to wherever they want. Prisons in other countries or whatever. And I don't. It's funny because you never know what Trump says, what he means, and what he doesn't. And there's some things he says that their base might be like, "Oh, he was just joking." But as a president, you're the leader. You got to be careful about what you say. It comes with responsibility. And he was saying how he would even want to deport U.S. citizens that uh, committed heinous crimes. But it's like, what's the definition of heinous to him? How far does that go? Like, it starts with crimes and then it goes to anyone who just doesn't like me, we're gonna deport, put into a concentration camp or whatever. So it's like you do have those fears of creating these camps like this. It does look very awfully familiar to something that happened, in Germany many years ago.
We're also not that far away from when the United States did this for Asian Americans,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
true.
something that, like, we can't forget is we did put Asian Americans and Asian immigrants in basically concentration camps,
Yeah, Japanese Americans.
Japanese Americans, sorry.
Yeah,
So that's a part of history that we have to remember, that like we've already strayed pretty close to the sun of doing the morally wrong thing before, and now we're doing it but at a much egregious and heartless level. I don't want to say that in any way was a better situation, but the justification back then was that it was war and it was for the safety of the country, and there's no war and justification now. It's just we are putting people that are here illegally or also here legally, that we've just decided that we don't want them here, and we're putting them in these camps.
yeah. Yeah, and I think people are mostly worried about the overstep or overreach of the government and who they're detaining and how they go about it. And I think it's been a bit chaotic. And now that this bill has passed and we've got more money for ICE, more money for anything dealing with immigration, which they built this camp for a reason, right? Because they know they're going to be putting more people in it because they're trying the whole mass deportation thing that Trump's been running off of. But it's funny. I visited a concentration camp in Germany, and one of the Americans asked the tour guide, like, did people let this happen? How do people not know? And it was interesting. I think Germans get a little defensive when it comes to this thing because, yeah,
It's
Americans,
shameful.
yeah, they're not proud of it, obviously.
Yeah.
But he turned the question around and he was like, well, what about you guys? Like, you've got Guantanamo Bay happening right now. You don't know what's going on in there.
Mhm.
There's jails, prisons. Public does not know mostly what is going on in these places. And, we use prisoners and stuff for work, labor, and stuff like that. So it's like, you wonder, like, how did they let this happen right in front of their eyes? This is how. Like, this is how it happens. It just
It's
kind of
also
slowly gets there.
Yeah, it's also easy when it's not directly affecting you to turn the other eye. and
For sure.
that's something that we can't do. We have to be better than that, and we have to stand up for those that can't. I think a good piece of, pop culture media that is, whether it's the musical or the movie, is Cabaret. I don't know if you've ever watched it, but it is about, Jewish people in, Germany in that time, and how a lot of them, pretended nothing was going to happen. Like it's going to be okay. It's just an uprising right now. It's, we're
Yeah.
going to let it go. The whole ending is, they end up in concentration camps. It's, made as like this light, kind of, it's a musical, but there is that dark undertone of like, when you ignore something and you're not aware of what's going on, or you just say, oh, it's not affecting me. You look at the plan of Project 2025, right? Is one of their things that they talk about is, making trans people registered sex offenders, right? So,
Yeah.
if you look at the LGBT community, they could be like, well, that doesn't, affect us, for like lesbian and gay people, that doesn't affect us. So like, well, yeah, it's horrible, but maybe we're not going to necessarily, do anything about it. But that's just a slippery slope of like, well, next it's, gender traders, when you watch Handmaid's Tale, for,
Yeah.
lesbian. It is a quick downhill slope. So we have to be aware of like, okay, this is already happening right now. What's next? So we can't just ignore it and hope that it doesn't affect us. We have to stand up for everybody when it's something that's just egregious and not right.
Yeah. And that's the point that I always want to make when people are like, you guys are overreacting. And it's hard because you don't want to be that person that overreacts. You want to try to stay level headed and logical about everything. But it's just like you can't just forget that this is how shit started in the past. So it's kind of like you're kind of on edge. You're kind of just watching, observing things, and that's all we can really do in this moment. But it's not very comforting. Yeah, fun times.
Yeah.
But yeah. So is there anything else on that specifically we wanted to cover?
I don't think so. I
Um,
think we can probably move on to the latest Elon news.
Yeah, that's a good one. For anyone who doesn't know, you might not know if you're not on X because this is where obviously he communicates with the world because it's his platform. So Elon Musk started or wanting to start a new political party called the American Party. So he announced that yesterday. He took some polls and asked if people thought there should be a new political party. And like, yeah, no fucking shit, Sherlock. Yes, we all think there should be more than a two-party system. But the problem is like, third parties have never done good at all. But so, yeah, the party appears to focus on fiscal conservatism, reducing government spending, and promoting innovation in technology and clean energy with plans to target specific congressional seats. Research suggests the party faces significant challenges due to the U.S. two-party system. But Musk's wealth and profile could help overcome some hurdles, though success is uncertain. There's controversy around Musk's polarizing figure and the feasibility of third parties, with potential pros like attracting disenfranchised voters and cons like vote splitting and organizational difficulties. But I think the most important thing to know, like, what does the party entail? Like, what does it stand for? So fiscal conservatism, I already read about that one, but that's where, you can't forget he was head of Doge. So he obviously it doesn't have empathy and really have a heart for people who are struggling. So you can only imagine, like, he's mad about the big, beautiful bill passing because there wasn't enough cuts and there was just
Mm-hmm.
like more debt and stuff like that. So I
and
don't
the and
think,
the clean energy stuff and the EV stuff, because that affects his
yeah,
business.
right. And I think that's what he cares about the most. It's not because he's like all of a sudden had a heart and, is siding with the left. It's just because he's being impacted by it
Mm-hmm.
negatively because of his business. Because Tesla definitely relies on those tax cuts for people who are, buying electric vehicles and blah, blah, blah. So basically, fiscal conservatism, push for deficit reduction, streamline bureaucracies, and pro growth policies, criticizing Trump's spending bill, which increases the deficit, which we already know. So, investment in future oriented industry. So, they want to champion investments in electric vehicle. So, it's basically, it's all for himself. Artificial intelligence and aerospace, supporting government's role in early stage funding and infrastructure with critical of bureaucratic I can't read today. Probably because we've done this a
Inefficiencies.
million times. Regulation. So reduce red tape to unleash innovation in biotech, AI, crypto, and space, aligning with Musk's business interests, of course. Education. Dismantle legacy models in favor of decentralized skills first learning, oppose federal student loan forgiveness like Biden's plan, favor skills based training, online platforms, or Neuralink enhanced learning. That one, it's kind of like, is he opposed to federal student loan forgiveness because he wants education to be different? That's the question. Not
Yeah.
super clear on that. I could see him wanting, like he said, like online platforms for education or literally getting a chip implanted for better learning.
Hmm.
Hey, you don't have to go to school. Here's a chip. You have ChatGPT in your head or
Yeah.
Grok. So I don't know about that one. So foreign policy, skeptical of prolonged foreign entanglements, though Musk's stance is unpredictable given his global business interests. Free speech, of course. So maximalist stance guided by Musk's management of X, except if you're Laura Loomer, then you don't get free speech. Management of X with potential contradictions noted in business practices such as content moderation policies, healthcare, reject expansions of government-run insurance, favor market-based reforms, telemedicine, or AI-driven diagnostics, environmental regulation, support aggressive decarbonization, champion electric vehicles and solar power, criticize regulatory processes slowing industrial development, without bureaucratic oversight favored by progressives. So it's kind of a mixed, it's mixed because he's, you know, kind of siding on the climate change and, clean energy situation there because it benefits him though. It's not because he like has a heart and cares about the earth. He
Hmm.
cares about his wallet and bank account and power. But so that kind of gives you a little roundabout of what he might want the party to stand for. But it kind of just sounds like he wants, it's almost like smaller government, except for when it comes to what he's trying to do, because he doesn't want, I don't know. The biggest things is like where the money's going with education and healthcare. It's just kind of like, I don't know exactly what he's thinking there. Because, yeah, AI driven diagnostics, we're kind of already headed that direction. We're also doing a lot of telemedicine, but it's still just as fucking expensive. So I know he wants to reject expansions of government run insurance and favor market based reforms. If that means like bringing the cost of healthcare down, cool. Yeah, we definitely need that because maybe we wouldn't need so much fucking insurance if healthcare in general was more affordable. But again, I'm not entirely sure what he's thinking of there.
Well, I
So
think, that's, I mean, the only positive I think of this, I definitely don't think Elon Musk is, or the American Party is going to be aligned probably with our values, but I do think that it's going to split the Republican Party up. It's almost going to do kind of what, Bernie did to the Democratic Party,
I was
where
thinking
it's
that.
where that's really why Trump won the first time, was because there was just such a division between liberals, right? So I think that's going to do the same thing, where either we're going to have a strong Democratic candidate, and it's going to be the Republican Party is going to be split enough to where that Democratic candidate's going to be able to win, or it's going to level the field more evenly for maybe an independent to be able to come in and run without having to be crushed by the Democratic and the Republican Party. So, it could be good in that sense, but definitely not someone that we also want to be in charge of our nation.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Is just like the plus side is he can't be the president because he was
Yeah.
not born here, unless they change that somewhere along the Trump. Like, I feel like they wouldn't because they wouldn't want Elon to. They don't want him to do what he's doing because it will take some votes away from them, and that's I think the biggest concern I've seen on the right is that he's going to cause them to actually even lose votes in midterms. So they're increasingly concerned about him doing this for those reasons. Will it divide the left vote? I don't know. I know there's a lot of centrists or like independents who it's probably going to cater to the most, but it just depends. A lot of people in the center tend to lean one way or another. So I don't know of anyone on the left that would necessarily go in that direction unless he comes up with like something to do with healthcare that really improves it or doesn't just like put a middle finger up to people who are less fortunate, but rich people are not exactly known to do that. And so I don't really trust it, but I'm in agreement that we need more than two parties. But I know that Andrew Yang, I'm always a Andrew Yang fan over here, but he's been talking about that for a long time. I think he calls it like the forward party. He always says he leans left, so mostly left leaning. He ran as a Democrat for president back in 2016, I think. Fortunately, didn't make it very far, but he was way ahead of the game. He was already talking about universal income, a basic income, because AI was taking over, and no one believed him at the time. Because you can imagine, in
Mhm.
2016, we didn't even have we did not have ChatGPT. We didn't have hardly any. We had Siri on our phone who couldn't even understand like two fucking words, right? I hope she doesn't start talking now. Whenever I
Sorry,
say,
I didn't understand that.
yeah, I'm like, oh, great. So yeah, AI was hardly a thing, and he was way ahead of the game when he was running on the fact that AI was going to take over, and it's only going to get worse. A lot of people's jobs are going to be taken over. There's a lot of jobs that don't exist today that existed way back,
Mhm.
and that happens, and it's going to happen again. It's just part of part of evolution of humans and stuff. So I don't know what we're gonna do. Like even I, as an online nutrition and fitness coach, I'm like, eh, I mean, you hope that AI won't take over your job because you're like, well, people are in for human connection, the relationship,
Mhm.
and stuff like that. But um, you don't know how good AI is gonna get, so you can only hope that you won't be replaced. There's a lot of unknown. And that's also one of the things that's a little scary about the thing in the bill where there's no oversight
Mhm.
on AI for the next 10 years or so. I need to look into that a little further before I just be like, oh, that means they're just going to be able to do anything.
No
So,
oversight, and from what it sounded like when I read, and I could be wrong, but it sounded like that states individually also couldn't do their own oversight. So it's like putting just a wipe on anything that anyone can do to try and keep that in, which is scary because I'm constantly seeing on TikTok like news videos where like it looks totally real and realistic, and then like you do a deep dive into it and it's like, oh no, that's AI, that's none of that happened. And so like knowing that most people won't do a deep dive into something, like that's how like again, misinformation is going to get out there, and how like people are just going to jump off of what they see immediately, whether it's causing people to get violent or causing people to panic when there isn't a need. But it's also cutting away the ability to have faith in the news that we're getting anymore.
yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because so Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's a congresswoman. I forget from which state. But she said that she wasn't going to vote for the bill because she didn't know that part was in it. So, yeah, I guess she changed her mind. She's like, I wouldn't have voted for it if I knew this was in there. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
one, aren't you supposed to fucking read it before you sign it or
Yep.
you vote for it? Second of all, you're a liar. Okay. So, anywho, yeah, enough about the bill. But yeah, I do think we need more parties than just two because there's a lot of people in the middle. We don't really fit in there. But unfortunately, we haven't been successful with that in the past. And I don't know. It's maybe in the very far future, but I just don't see it helping in the moment because it's like we can't get it off the ground, can't fund it.
Yeah.
But so yeah, we'll see what happens with that. We'll keep following, Musk's new party there, see what comes to fruition. But did you want to talk about what we're watching? End it on a little lighter note, maybe.
Sure. Let's have you start at this time.
Okay, so right now we're watching The Bear uh, on Hulu. I watched like part of the first season, but then didn't finish it. But now that there's like four seasons, we're like let's just watch this one because we kind of are running out of things. We finished Squid Games, which was it's intense. It's not very light, but it's a very good series. And yeah, the last season, which was basically a continuation of season two,
Mhm.
it was very good. So highly recommend Squid Games. It's one of those shows that just like keeps your attention and it's like you can't look away. It's very, very good, very fast paced, and also terrifying. But I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah, that's about all we've been watching this week. We also are watching a little bit of the show with Owen Wilson on Apple TV. I think it's called like Stick or something. I could be wrong. But it's like a heartfelt dramedy
Okay.
about a kid who's basically a savant at golf. It's all right, but it's a little more lighthearted if you're looking
Hmm.
for something to distract you. It's a little funny, it's a little endearing. My only complaint is that it's about golf, and
No, you're not a
I'm
golf
sorry if
fan.
you like golf. No, it's so fucking boring. Like, I think someone was like, how can we play baseball without a pitcher? And
Mhm.
then they were like, here's how golf, and then put it in the hole. All right.
What's a baseball sport we can do where we don't have to?
Yeah. What is like the least active sport we can
Hmm.
create? I guess if you count like chess or something as a sport, then that would. But yeah, maybe one day I'll get into golf when I can no longer like do other things. But until then, I'm just like, this is long and not very exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, what are you watching?
Been continuing the King of the Hill trend, and I just got my wife into in a attempt to watch drama, but not have drama be so closely to what is happening in this world. We started watching Dawson's Creek. Yeah. So I've watched, I think, like maybe 3 seasons, when I was younger, and I never really finished it. But my wife hadn't seen any of it, and they were editing photos, and I was like, well, let me just put something on that, like, we don't have to, like, it's not like you have to, like, really fully pay attention. Like, you can kind of listen. And I put that on, and now we've almost finished the first season. So we definitely got hooked into it. But yeah, that's been a good kind of reprieve from a drama, from what's really happening, and watching like just like teen drama of, like, a teacher hooking up with their student, and you're like, wow, this was actually something that they had in like 1998. And it's pretty crazy. But yeah, we're enjoying that.
Awesome. I'm like watching an old show that
Yeah.
you used to watch, which also reminds me, did you ever watch Seventh Heaven
Oh
when
yeah.
you were okay? So apparently they're gonna be doing like a reboot. I
Really?
think, yeah. So that's gonna be interesting. It's not gonna star like any of the old cast, but I think what's her who used to be Mary? Why
Oh, Jessica
just
Biel.
Gil? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think she's gonna either like produce or direct or something along those lines. So that's kind of interesting. So I think it's on Hulu now, but it was like a few months ago or maybe a year ago even. I got curious because it popped up on I think Hulu. I was like, oh my god, this show! So I
Mhm.
decided to watch the first episode. I did not remember the first episode basically being about incest.
Yeah.
I think I already might have talked about that, but it was just like basically Mary and her brother got caught kissing by her
Hmm.
dad, and it was just fucking weird. And
Yeah.
so they actually have a podcast with most of the
Yeah.
old casts. It's
Yeah, it's
fun.
it's the actors who played Ruthie,
Lucy.
Lucy, and Simon.
Yes. Yeah.
I've seen clips on TikTok of like of their podcasts, and it's pretty hilarious. I grew up. I loved Seventh Heaven. I watched it, even though I wasn't religious or anything. I loved the close family, tie knit that they had. I was very disappointed to hear about the child molestation with the
Yeah.
actor who played the father. I think his name is Stephen Collins, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, that definitely kind of ruins your childhood, when you look up to someone as like a father figure. But yeah, I loved that show. I don't know how a reboot is going to be, and it kind of feels
Yeah.
weird that it would be not with the original cast minus the dad. He should be killed off the show. But yeah,
They
that's
I mean he was a pastor, so they just made it a little too realistic
yeah,
that
right.
he was they're like I never thought the show was very realistic because they're just like constantly like we need to talk
Mhm.
and like they got super upset about the tiniest things. But then when they're like, oh, this guy was a child molester, like that's accurate. That checks. So unfortunately they took the worst thing. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It's not like they knew. But yeah, I'm like, okay, definitely got those child molester vibes in the show.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Well, any last things you wanted to cover before we wrap things up?
I think that's it. I feel like we've the viewers won't know, but we've been talking for almost 3 hours because of technical difficulties. I think, the highlights of today or this episode is, make sure, like, let's, don't look past, injustices that are happening. It's just because it doesn't affect you personally, we have to, pull ourselves out of ourselves and think about, just humanity and what's right and what's wrong. And I know there's a lot of people who are, talking about the floods in Texas who are like, oh, they fucked around and found out. And that's also not the way to go about it. We need to have compassion for the lives that were lost. Again, we've got, 20 something kids that are missing, and that's a lot of families that are affected, including the 70 something people who are confirmed dead. So, whatever spectrum you're on in the political field, we still need to hold on to our humanity and our compassion.
Yeah, well said. Agreed. Basically, whatever we can do to try to find, common ground, unity, we need to try to do that because it's not going to get any better. And yeah, don't celebrate misfortune in the state just because it's red, just like when people were celebrating about the misfortunes in California with the fire. Don't stoop to that level. Yeah, it's empathy and compassion. Just always remember that we are all humans. We all deserve respect. Human life always deserves respect, whether you're here legally, illegally, whatever color skin you have. Yeah, just yeah, try to find common ground. So that's all I have to say.
Until next time, we're the Doom Scroll Club. Doom scrolling is always funner with friends.
Peace out.
See ya.